days.
Yeah, I mean it's a total of 5 and 7 twice, really. I think it ends up being like 8 and 13 or something to that effect. But it's it's been a bit of a run here, and it's going to take them right to the All-Star break, which will be nice, and we'll get a little bit of time off before we start back up again in the second week of February. There, but this has been a good run for the Flyers. Again, to not only they've been playing well for the most part, but they've been able to maintain it, and able to keep it going. And they don't like to have a ton of time off in between games, so they'll take it at this point as they try to get to the point where things are rolling along in the right direction.
So since Monday, it was a day game Monday against Boston. That was that 6-0 loss.
Yep.
And Tuesday night, Anaheim, 5-2 win. Then Thursday here at Wells Fargo against Chicago, 4-1 loss. And then last night in Detroit, a 2-1 win. Today it's Winnipeg. Then coming up Tuesday, it's Los Angeles here, then off to Minnesota and Winnipeg, and that'll take us to the All-Star break. That is an insane schedule.
It is. It's been it was supposed to be a little bit less hectic, especially in the early part of January here. But the Flyers had a back-to-back that was supposed to be in March, included a trip to Buffalo, and that game got moved into the break that they had there right at the start of the month. And honestly, it was a good thing because that March thing's going to be crazy for them. That was supposed to be a 12:30 game on a Saturday or something like that, and now it came back as a 7 o'clock game. Plus, it was, if you recall, right after that absolute stinker in Toronto, they were able to get that out of their throats a little bit earlier than they would have normally. So it did get a little bit more hectic than what was planned, but they've handled it pretty well overall.
Well, you look at the variance in opponents that they've kind of had over this past couple of weeks. I mean, you mentioned that Toronto game, so you see Toronto, that was a 6-2 loss. One of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, then the best team in the entire league in Boston. And in there, though, you got teams like Arizona mixed in and Anaheim and Chicago, who they lost to, kind of middling team like Detroit. And then you get a Winnipeg team tonight that's very good.
Yeah, this team is sneaky good. Again, we don't see them very often, just twice a year. You don't hear about what the Jets are typically doing all that often. But, this team has got, the best or the most wins in the Western Conference. They've got 30 wins. They've got fewer points than a couple of teams because of some more regulation versus overtime losses. But they're the first team in the West to 30 wins. So, they are definitely the real deal out there in Winnipeg this year. Flyers are going to get them twice now here in the course of a week because they'll be there this coming Saturday, a week from yesterday, to wrap up that All-Star break schedule. So, it's going to be a couple of opportunities here for them to, again, measure up against a top-flight opponent.
Yeah, there's only 3 teams in the NHL with 30 or more wins. It's the New Jersey Devils, who have a record of 30-12-4. It's Winnipeg, 13-16-1. And then it's the Bruins, 36-5-4. So they're in rarefied air north of 30 at this point. Flyers, by the way, just reached their 20th win, which took them into March 20th of last year.
I was really surprised to realize that. I know I know that was a long year, but I certainly didn't realize it was that long a year. That was a bit of a surprise. That's a good 2 months almost earlier than last year. So signs of progress, that's for sure.
And the other part of it is Carter Hart picked up his 14th win of the season last night. That was his total from a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So two trends moving in the right direction. At least, some believe it's the right direction. Here's the Flyers' point percentage since the holiday break. They have a .750 point percentage. There's only one team in the league since then that's got a higher one. They happen to beat the Flyers 6-0. That's the Bruins at .833. That's pretty incredible. It's ahead of the Oilers at 731, the Devils at 727, this Winnipeg Jets team at 692, and the Tampa Bay Lightning tied with them at 692 as well. That comes courtesy of Jordan Hall, NBC Sports Philly.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's certainly a sign of a team that is coming together under this coaching staff and one that is probably poised to make some moves here in the offseason to improve certain areas. And when they do that, they can continue under this coaching staff and on this upward trend. It'll be good to see. I mean, I'm not saying that this is going to turn into a race, but with that win last night, the Flyers are within 7 points of that second wild card, which is a closer number than you would have thought as this season progressed through the fall. Again, playoffs are going to be a very, very tall order for this team. It's not really what their primary focus is, I don't think. I believe I saw an estimation that the cutoff was either going to be 95 or 93 in the East. I don't remember which one was East, one was West. But regardless, the Flyers have 47 points right now. They would have to exactly double that in fewer than 6 fewer games than they did at this point in the second half to be in that situation. Are they capable of doing it? Sure, but there's probably a lot of other teams around them that are going to catch fire as well. So it's not something that's likely, but they are a lot closer, I think, than a lot of folks thought they would be at this point.
Yeah, through 47 games last year, they were 15, 24, and 8. Now they're 20, 20, and 7. So 5 games in the win column difference for the team, and that's enough to have you sniffing around there. And I think the priority is still to find out what guys are, and we'll see. Like, when we come back from this break, we'll be a month out from the trade deadline, and then we'll start to find out, what the market looks like, for guys like James Van Riemsdyk on an expiry contract, or, Justin Braun for that matter, or Patrick Brown, and if there are some trades made, and look at ones beyond that.
Yeah.
If there are trades made, then how are those holes filled?
Yeah,
for the remainder of the season?
I don't think the focus has changed. I think it is what you're saying, that to continue to evaluate this team and figure out what they've got and what's moving forward here. I just think that the process they're going through to do that has generated wins, which is every hockey player expects to win every given night. You're never going to find the situation where an NHL team comes out and says, "Yeah, we're not going to win tonight. We're going to go play the game. We're not going to." That doesn't happen. But they're not winning these games at the expense of the overall agenda here, which is, again, to set themselves up for next year. They're winning games while they're in the process of doing that, which is a good sign.
Yeah, when the Flyers are up in that game yesterday, George wanted to continue rolling 4 lines to see how all guys would react in that situation.
Yeah, specifically things like that. It's not necessarily, let's throw out just the top 2 and just shorten the bench and let's get 2 points. Now we want to see how some of these guys are going to handle this sort of pressure.
So when we are a winning team,
right?
We can and we can't.
So that's the difference. That's the difference between what the Flyers are doing right now and then what you typically see out of a team that's trying to claw back into a playoff spot or maintain its positioning or something like that. They're going to do things to see what happens, and if what happens is a loss, so be it. But it's still going to be a loss that accomplishes something. Most of the time, even the games in Toronto, and what was the one before Chicago? What a week.
Boston.
Even the games in Toronto and Boston. In both those cases, those losses, they wanted to see what was going to happen after that and what they could accomplish. And, they did a very, very good job bouncing back against Toronto, or after Toronto, and not so good a job bouncing back after Boston. But it is all part of.
Well, they beat Anaheim.
What was the one? That's not the one I'm thinking of then. Maybe it is. I don't know. I thought there was a second. We had a second one. There was a Chicago. I'm mixing Chicago in. It's been a long week. But, the bounce back is kind of what they were looking for there, and I guess in both cases it worked out.
The other thing George mentioned about 5-on-6 when you have a 1-goal lead and the other team's got the goalie pull.
Right.
One of the icings yesterday he was mentioning before this game to the media, and we talked to him about it, and he said it's something we need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
You have no practice time to work on it, okay? And then if you do get practice time, how far down in the pecking order is that very situational element?
And that Anaheim game also told me that they haven't been working on their 5-on-3 much either.
Yeah.
Which, again, you wouldn't necessarily expect them to. You didn't think
it goes way down the pecking order because it happens rarely.
You wouldn't think maybe it needs a lot of work. It's more just instinctual than anything. But, after the way they handled that 5-on-3, they may need to look at it a little bit, at least spend some film time on that.
Yeah. Let's take our first time out here on the pregame show. We're live at the East Food Hall. We are all back in the same building, and it'll be the Flyers and the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Flyers home tonight and Tuesday. LA will be in town, so we'll see a couple Western Conference opponents for this one and the next. But stay tuned. We're back after this. You're listening to Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Back live at the East Food Hall. Flyers game day brought to you by Betway. Brian Smith, Chase Martinez. Flyers and the Jets tonight. You don't get to see Winnipeg.
No. Yeah, it's outpost. You get this once a year, and their performance in the last few seasons has been such that you don't really notice when they come.
The North American Siberia.
Yeah. Remember the 9-8 game against this team years ago? That was one of those nights you won't forget when the Flyers put 8 goals and lost. They went down real big in that game, as I recall, and came back. You thought it was over in the first period or something like that, and they came back. And, it's one of those down in lore.
Yeah, well, if their last 2-1 with no scoring in the first
I it was one of those tonight. Yeah. The other thing too is that this is obviously the old Thrashers, and how far they those there was a stretch there where the Flyers could not lose to them. I mean, they just dominated the Thrashers their last few years in that market. And Winnipeg, it was a complete 180.
Yeah. This Winnipeg team had Pat Money for years. Great shooter and scorer. They got another guy on this team. I think he's in the top. I think he's 18th or 19th in the league in shots. He had 7 shots on goal last night. It's Kyle Connor. He has eclipsed the 30-goal mark 4 times in his career in basically the 5 seasons, full seasons. Going to get there again this year. He's got 23 now. Last year he scored 47 goals in 79 games and had 93 points. And obviously, it's way different than like his stature and everything. But man, you got to know when he's on the ice as a goaltender.
Yeah.
And I'll be Felix Sandstrom tonight. Pay attention because this guy can fire the pill.
There's different ways to contribute like that, whether it's greasy goals, kind of sneaky goals. I feel like the Flyers' version of this right now is Travis Konechny. He gets a lot of goals like that. Trifley is one of those snipers. He's one of those true, scorers that
Connor, you mean?
Connor, one of those true scorers that the Flyers around and think we could really use one of these guys. They haven't had one in a decade now. That's really a credit to his development that he's been able to come around and be that type of player, and he meshes very, very well with the guys around him. Obviously,
yeah. You bring up like Scheifele, he's a good one, and they got some good big bodies here. I mean, this is a big team physically. Big. Connor's not a big man. I mean, he's 6'1", 180, but he's not like thick like a Scheifele or a Blake Wheeler. Those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Kyle Connor, by the way, was drafted 17th overall back in the 15 draft.
Wow.
So not even a top 10 pick. 47, potted 47 at a 31-goal year, 34, 38, and then that 47 last year. He had 26 in the 56-game season. That's well over a 30-goal pace.
Yeah, and again, that's just I sit here and I don't want to say that the Flyers would ever turn down Connor Bedard if it came his way, but the idea of just blowing everything up for the 18% chance to get him is just not necessary. I don't think, because you can find guys like this, especially in this draft. It's supposed to be a deep draft. I mean, wherever the Flyers do end up picking, they have a very good shot at getting a player like this, and that's going to be again perhaps an easier piece to build around than a guy that's going to be a bona fide superstar that maybe everybody's targeting, and then you've got to give him $10 million right off the hop or whatever the max is at the time. It's just, for me, it's not worth it when you can pull off something like what Winnipeg has done with Kyle Connor.
Yeah, the thing is, you look at that 2015, that's the Konechny draft. Same one, that's where Connor McDavid goes first overall, Mike goes second, Marner goes fourth, and you got some good Provorov goes seventh. Borinsky's in that draft. Rantanen. I mean, you're talking about some really good players here. Barzal goes 1 pick before Kyle Connor. And right after, Thomas Chabot, defenseman for the Ottawa Senators. Svechnikov's in there. You have Ilya Samsonov, leading the league in goals saved above. Besser in that draft. These are all after him. Jack Roslovich, who was traded in that Pierre-Luc Dubois deal. And, I mean, some really good players. And if they're getting there. And Pierre-Luc Dubois, another guy on this Winnipeg team, Bry, that is putting up very nice numbers. Of course, there's some history between he and Torts. He was in Columbus rather, and we know about that last shift that he had, and then was moved for Patrick Laine. There's a dynamic there. Pierre-Luc Dubois never had anything bad to say about Torts after that. He said he understood it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, it's an exercise in kind of perspective when you sit back and look at that graph. We talked about this graph recently, where Boston had 3 consecutive picks, and could have done a lot better with 2 or 3. And you keep going down this list. I mean, when you rank these players based on the number of NHL games that they have played, Travis Konecny comes in 6th. And Ivan Provorov comes in 3rd. So, that's a situation there where Flyers at 24 get a guy in Konecny. You see these redrafts every now and then when folks don't have anything else to talk about. They redraft a year and see who has gone where. Well, Travis Konecny, in terms of overall points right now, is 8th best in that draft. The Flyers got him at 24. So that's the kind of thing that's more the kind of thing that turns the franchise in the right direction, is drafting like that, as opposed to getting 4 or 5 consecutive lottery picks.
Now, one of the other storylines tonight is the goaltender, because we know that Felix Sandstrom was sent down for a conditioning assignment after he was initially injured. Oh no, he was
sick.
Yeah. He was sick. They were able to send him down when they called up Sam Ersson, and they wanted to get a look at Ersson. They did. He performed very well. And Sandstrom comes back up. He gets his first game tonight after playing 7 down with the Phantoms. And, the interesting thing about this, I think there's the human dynamic of this too. Him knowing how well Ersson played and that he's got to perform. It's not just one goalie pushing another. There's 3 goalies pushing each other here. It's Hart, Sandstrom, and Ersson all pushing each other.
Yeah, there's that element of competition. That
only one crease.
Yeah, you like to see it. Really, anywhere on a team, you like to see it where guys are pushing each other to be better. But in the case of the goaltending situation, where, like you said, there's one crease, one guy can play per game, really, unless things aren't going well. If that's the case, then you've got 3 guys pushing each other, and especially in the backup slot, a couple of guys pushing each other. That just makes everybody better, generally, I think. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Sandstrom comes out tonight. Again, we've seen this before, where a guy plays in the NHL. He plays a certain level, goes back to the AHL with a bit of renewed perspective on what the NHL is like, and then comes back and takes another step forward at the NHL. I'm hoping that he does that tonight.
Yeah, you know what you need to work on. You find that out, then you go down there, you work on it a little bit, and a little bit more forgiving of a level of play. Then you come back up here, having sharpened those skills of what you learned and what you just worked on, and it can be really beneficial. That's a good point.
So it's just a matter of you come up here. It's the medicine ball effect, I guess, a little. You come up here and the game's so much faster and so much more skilled. You get used to that, and you go down in the American League, and you as a player are better than you were when you came up, and that allows you to even sharpen in on some more things at that level.
Well, we'll get a look at him tonight. It'll be the battle of the 2 backups, if you will. It'll be Felix Sandstrom versus David Rittich tonight. Hellebuck went last night in Winnipeg's 5-1 win over Ottawa on the road last night. Let's take our last time out. We'll take that, and we'll come back. We'll give you the line combinations. Get you ready for Flyers Jets at Wells Fargo Center. Tim Saunders and Steve Coates will have the countdown to face off and all the first period action. You're listening to Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway, Flyers Broadcast Network. East Food Hall. Davis Flyers game for that way. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, Flyers, and the Winnipeg Jets set to play here tonight. Again, next Saturday, but in Winnipeg. So, busy schedule. There's
no other vacation destination in late January quite like Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's Buffalo and Winnipeg. It was snowing in Buffalo today.
Yeah, apparently that's another Sunday there, right?
I was talking to Jones yesterday. Jonesy, Buffalo did more snow than Brantford, Ontario. It's at least.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, Flyers line competitions tonight. No change in who's coming into the lineup once again for the Flyers, except Erson's going to. Danstrom is going to start over Carter Hart, but again it's Frost, Mandarin Pipe, and Tippett, Cates, Harvey, Beckney, Lawton, Hayes, and Allison. Brown, Delarier, and Hewitt. No shock there. Provorov in York, Sanheim and D'Angelo, Wheeler and Ristolainen, and that's talk as well.
Yeah, it's again. This is, I don't want to say unprecedented, but it certainly isn't something that John Tortorella has done a whole lot in his career with any team. I don't think. But that's not to say they don't. I mean, the lines have been shuffling a little bit during the game at some point or another, especially that Chicago game the other night. But right now, it's established this baseline to start the game with. Go from there.
This team, as big as they are, and as big as they are up in the middle, this Winnipeg team, the centers tonight, Frost, Gates, Lawton, and Brown, have a heavy job tonight against this team because they're deep and they're big and they're skilled.
It's a team that's been put together really to be just that in the middle. And it's one thing when you've got guys who are big and maybe your fourth liners, but these guys have size on the top lines as well. Blake Wheeler, 5'2", 225, even able to score and be dominant, size wise. So they've just got a lot to deal with really in that realm tonight to the Flyers, and not for nothing, but they're certainly a hard-working team, everything like that. But the Flyers don't have a hulking presence really like that at the moment.
Yeah, they're tied for 10th in the NHL in scoring at 3.28 goals per game. They only allow 2.62. It speaks to that Connor Hellebuck and the job that he does, and he is a very good one on the regular. David Radich gets to start tonight, though. On the power play at 24.7%, and on the PK, this Winnipeg team is 84.9%. So they're solid in special teams. And they average under 30 shots a game, though, 29.9. So
they're efficient. 21-6-1 when scored first. So that first goal is pretty important.
That's kind of like the Flyers that doesn't score first and perform well in that.
Mm-hmm. They're again, this doesn't sound like a good record, but 11-13-5 when giving up the first goal, that's not bad. Yeah, I mean that's points in 16 of 29 games where they've given up the first goal, which is first stop giving up the first goal. But if you're going to do it, then that's a good number to have.
Yeah, no doubt. That's pretty crazy, to have that many when you don't score first. But the number is pretty pronounced. Like some people say, the randomness of it. The first goal doesn't matter much unless it's a first goal the game scored in the third period that it matters more. But the reason why the first goal matters so much is because if the second goal is scored by the same team, they're up 2-0.
Right, exactly. It's just and again, that's something the Flyers have excelled at this year. Is not just points when they give up the first goal, but coming back from those multi-goal deficits, and they're doing that all the time back in the fall.
Yeah,
and that's a skill you want to have just for when it does happen, that the game's not already in the bag, because they've had times this franchise has when they couldn't come back from a 1-goal lead, much less a 2.
Yeah, that's the thing. You want to have that skill, but you just don't want to use it a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And then again, to that effect, a good start tonight, pretty important for the Flyers, because Winnipeg is outscoring their opponents by about 25 goals this year, and almost all of that all of it is in the second and third period. They're being outscored in the first, but second and third periods, this team has been all over everybody. So that's a solid start here tonight is key for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting in the first 10 minutes of the game, because we saw, for lack of a better term, low event or sleepy hockey last night, and this is 5 games in 7 days, and You're getting close to the All-Star break. What kind of energy are these teams coming out with? Both traveled in last night. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on, too. Or are these two teams kind of tired but cranky?
Right.
Because that can be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can generate energy through that.
And again, we are in what they call the dog days of the season a little bit here. It's usually more in February, but just from the standpoint of these guys have played a lot of hockey. Like you said, they've got that break coming up on the horizon, which could be going to a warm climate or something like that. So a lot of times, this is kind of a grind time of the year, but it's the same for everybody. So we'll see if they fight through it.
Yeah, no doubt. And we will get our answers very shortly because Tim Saunders and Steve Coates, they're in the house. They've got the countdown to face off, and that'll be followed by all the first period action. 5 games in 7 days. Ooh, I know these guys can be up on their skates, Tim and Coates, that is. That much we can guarantee. So stay tuned for all the action coming up right after this. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day, brought to you by Betway on the Flyers Broadcast Network.